This is a bishop. Bishops can usually be identified in a Staunton-type chess set by the notch in the hat, or top of the piece. The bishop is often the third tallest of the pieces, next to the king and queen, and can also be identified by the fact that there are two bishops of each color in a chess set. In a chess game, the bishop always moves diagonally. From this position on e5, the bishop can move to any of the highlighted squares. For example, it could move to a1, or it could move to c7. Note that at the beginning of the game, both sides have one bishop on a light square and one bishop on a dark square. Because they are limited to diagonal movement, the light-squared bishops will always remain on light squares, and the dark-squared bishops will always remain on dark squares. This is white's light-squared bishop. This is white's dark-squared bishop. Black's light-squared bishop. Black's dark-squared bishop. Here's a bishop on c3. Note the squares to which it can move. This time its movement is hindered by two of its own pieces, on b4 and e5. A bishop can never jump over one of its own pieces. We'll move this bishop to d4. Now look at this bishop on f6, and the squares to which it can move. Its movement is hindered by one of its opponent's pieces on c3. When one of your opponent's pieces lies in the path of your bishop, you may not jump over it, but you can capture it. When your bishop captures a piece, it moves to the square the piece was on. Let's capture the knight on c3. Bishop takes knight. The bishop is considered to be only a moderately strong piece because of the fact that its movement is always limited to only half the board, that is, to only the light squares or to only the dark squares. The strength of a bishop in the game is that it can often sneak behind enemy lines. Note how easily this bishop on h3 can move into black's territory, thus threatening the king on square g8. Now try moving a bishop and capturing with it in the following exercises. The bishop can legally move to only one of the highlighted squares. Move the bishop to that square. Correct. Only one of the bishops can legally move to a highlighted square. Move the correct bishop to that square. That's correct. Only one of the bishops can legally move to a highlighted square. Move the correct bishop to that square. That's correct. Only one of the bishops can legally move to a highlighted square. Move the correct bishop to that square. That's correct. Click on all of the squares to which this bishop can move, including captures. Correct. Here its movement is impeded by its own pieces on f2 and h8, but none of its opponent's pieces can be captured. Click on all of the squares to which this bishop can move, including captures. That's right. Here the bishop can capture its opponent's pieces on b5 and h1. so those squares should be included in the squares to which the bishop can move. In this exercise, you will use the white bishop to capture all of the black pawns on the board. The black pawns will not move. Plan ahead. The bishop must capture a pawn on every move. Good. Keep going. 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 Good. You got them all. In this exercise, you will use the black bishop to capture all of the white pawns on the board. The white pawns will not move. Plan ahead. The bishop must capture a pawn on every move. Good. Keep going. 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 Good. You got them all. Only one of the bishops on the board can capture an opponent's piece. Capture that piece with the correct bishop. That's correct. Only one of the bishops on the board can capture an opponent's piece. Capture that piece with the correct bishop. That's correct.